These are the headlines. The controversial returning officer for District 4, Claremont Mingo, is arrested. A Chinese mining company has taken over the operations of Guyana Goldfields and has committed to employing over 200 locals. Leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, Lex Shuman, says his new post as an advisor to the government will not conflict with his responsibilities as a member of parliament. A doctor and 2 nurses have tested positive for COVID-19 in East Berbice quarantine. And in sport, Patriots beat Tridents to register their first win of the Hero CPL 2020. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. The controversial returning officer for District 4, Claremont Mingo, was today arrested at a house on the west coast of Berbice and taken to the Criminal Investigations Department in Georgetown. We have more in this report.
Mr. Claremont Mingo, the former returning officer for Region 4, was arrested on Tuesday afternoon at his Calcutta Maikoni, East Coast Demerara home. Mr. Mingo was wanted for several months in relation to the March 5th declarations from the general and regional elections, in which it was found that fraudulent numbers were used. Mingo was arrested in connection with falsification of documents, authoring forged documents, and conspiracy to commit fraud. One of Mingo's attorneys, Darren Wade, turned up at the Criminal Investigations Department and claimed that he was denied access to speak with his client.
When I entered the CID headquarters upstairs, the police said to me that Mr. Mingo is not there. However, one of them went upstairs after. They went about 2 or 3 offices downstairs, then went upstairs thereafter. Then Mr. Caesar came to me and said, Mr. Wade, you're able to speak to Mingo when I sent him downstairs. So whatever illegal interview is being conducted there, let the world know that an attorney is here to meet with Mr. Claremont Mingo, and the police are refusing to let me see him. If an attorney turn up, you allow him to see his client. You don't keep him away from his attorney. So the police is refusing counsel to see his client this afternoon here. I want the world to see the abuse and the excess of the police and the police attitude towards citizens. The police, you saw when I went up there and I came down because I was unable to meet with Mr. Claremont Mingo. All because of the police. I want to know if that is Mr. Glenn Hanneman's vehicle there by any chance. I'm not too sure. But it looks like his vehicle. I'm not too sure. But I want to know, why is it that I cannot see my client? Why is it the police is preventing me from seeing my client? My client has a right to his attorney under the Constitution of the Corporate Republic of Guyana.
The private criminal charge was filed against Mr. Mingo and PNC Chairman Ms. Valdo Lawrence by now Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport Charles Brampton Jr. Mr. Mingo remains in the employ of the Guyana Elections Commission, but the newsroom understands that he has not showed up for work in months. The Guyana Police Force has since launched a probe into the March 2nd polls. Bibi Katoon reporting to you from outside of the Criminal Investigations Department in Georgetown.
The People's Progressive Party government has terminated the contract of Chief Executive Officer of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Leland Saul. The newsroom understands that Saul received his letter from the ministry on Tuesday with 1 month's notice. However, since he has 1 month acquired annual leave, the CEO vacated his office Tuesday. Saul was appointed to the post in March 2017 by former Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan. He is a retired Lieutenant Colonel of the Guyana Defense Force and also worked with the United Nations Development Program. A Chinese mining company has successfully acquired the operations of Guyana Goldfields Incorporated and has committed to employing over 200 Guyanese workers. Bibi Katoon has the details.
The Chinese company the Jing Mining Group Limited will now be operating Aurora Gold Mines, owned by Guyana Goldfields Inc. in Region 7. In a statement Tuesday, the company said they have completed previously announced statutory plan of arrangement under Canada Business Corporations Act, following receipt of all required regulatory approvals. Guyana Goldfields Inc., a Canadian-owned company, in 2019 began underground mining before it announced earlier this year that it was selling its operations here. The major concern has been the future of staff employed by the company. In an invited comment on Tuesday, Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat told the newsroom that he engaged Senior Vice President of Guyana Goldfields Inc., Perry Holloway, on Monday evening on the way forward. During that meeting, the minister said employment was the main issue on the agenda, and the Chinese company made a commitment to employ 200 to 300 persons. They have also an expansion program that, once approved, will employ another 500 by early 2021, he noted. The minister disclosed that the new company will be retaining Mr. Holloway for a short period to assist in the transition. The Natural Resources Minister believes that the transfer of operations to the Chinese-owned company is a better option as opposed to closing the Region 7 mines. Headquartered in mainland China, Dijing boasts of being a leading global mining company specializing in gold, copper, zinc, and other mineral resource exploration and development. It operates in China and overseas across 11 countries. Baby Katun reporting for the newsroom.
Leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, Lex Shuman, on Tuesday said his new post as advisor to the Minister of Public Works on Civil Aviation will not conflict with responsibilities as a Member of Parliament. The former Indigenous leader, who has also been a pilot since 1999, told the newsroom's Bibi Katun that he will use his job to serve his party's support base as well as other Guyanese.
Mr. Shuman, you've been recently appointed a new post within the government. Can you tell us about that new post?
Well, good afternoon, baby. Let me first say it's good to be here. The post is a technical post. It is advising the Honorable Minister of Public Works on civil aviation. As you know, the maritime sector contributes about 80% to the economy, and the aviation and land transport section contributes collectively 20%. Sorry, this I'll take this off. We're 6 feet away, so I'm sure it'll be crispy now. So yeah, the aviation and land transport contributes less than 20% or 20% or so. And if you look at what has happened or has not happened in aviation, we have not been able to get direct flights to and from the US and Guyana because of the Cat 1 status. I think they're working on that. We have not been able to grow the tourism industry. We don't have direct access to Europe. 6 out of the 10 regions have indigenous peoples that require aviation to access them. So it is a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. And I think it gives me and our membership an opportunity to fulfill part of our manifesto. So it is, if you look at it, every night we have aircraft flying over Guyana. I'm sure that when we sit down with the minister and the government at this point, is that we have to look at how we could change Guyana to be the gateway to South America. And the only way we could do that is in conjunction with that deep water port, that we find the corresponding aviation network to do that.
Some persons would have raised concerns about you being from another party and part of a joined the list and taking up this position. Does it in any way conflict with an agreement signed by the 3 parties?
Well, under Article 6 of the tripartite agreement, it states that we are not going to go and join government and so on and so forth. And I think Mr. Ramkaran very clearly explained the context of why that agreement or how that agreement was formulated. Basically, we were calculating on a minority government, that if there was a minority government, we would not just join that government for our own benefit in that sense. But since there is already a majority, then that point becomes null. It is a non-event. So for us, we don't see that as an issue. It is a technical position, and we fully intend on honoring the agreement we signed.
You were the person that was put forward by your party to sit in the National Assembly.
Right.
Have you discussed with your party what happens now?
We met before this position came up. We had a discussion on it. We fully agreed that we are going to work towards fulfilling our manifesto to a great extent. And however we can get that done, we intend on getting it done. But I want to point out there are 2 articles in the Constitution of the Liberty and Justice Party. Article 4.1 talks about non-coalescing unless it's in the national interest. That's from the Liberty and Justice Party's Constitution. But Article 4.2 of that very Constitution, Liberty and Justice Party's Constitution, also says that we are going to put the national interest above party's interest. Now, it would be hypocritical of me to be offered something that is in the national interest and just refuse it just because of political ideology. We are here for the national development.
Isn't there a conflict sitting in the National Assembly and advising the government, being employed by the government?
Not in the least. If you look at the agreement that we signed with the New Movement and a New and United Guyana, is that before we make decisions in the National Assembly, that has to be vetted and endorsed by all three parties. So it is not that Lex Shuman is going to walk in there as a lone ranger or hired gun or anything to be able to disrupt or not disrupt. We still have an obligation. We sign an agreement in earnest, and we intend on honoring that agreement. And that agreement says that before a decision is made or placed on the floor in the National Assembly, that we have that discussion. So I'm being hired in a technical capacity. It is not in a political capacity. And it is an evolution. There is nothing in politics that is static. It is fluid and it is dynamic. And we have to be able to change with it.
When the newsroom returns, a doctor and a few nurses have tested positive for COVID-19 in East Berbice quarantine. The mayor of Georgetown says the relaxing of the curfew is affecting the COVID-19 fight, and UG announces that the first semester will begin in October. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom. The University of Guyana has revealed that the first academic semester will be held online due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The semester will now begin on October 5th, 2020 and will conclude on February 13th next year. Registration for new and continuing students will be held from August 31st to September 30th. Orientation will also be conducted online during the first week of October. The end period for late registration is November 6th, and the end date for change of registration, requests for transfers, requests for exemptions of courses, and requests for withdrawal is November 13th. The deadline for payment of fees or submission of loan award is November 27th. Final examinations for the semester will be held from January 25th to February 13, 2021. A doctor and two nurses attached to the New Amsterdam Hospital in Region 6 has tested positive for COVID-19 after treating an infected patient. 5 Cuban nationals who entered Guyana illegally about 2 weeks ago also tested positive. The region, as of August 25th, recorded 13 confirmed cases. Isanella Patois reports.
The majority of the COVID-19 cases recorded in Region 6, East Berbice quarantine, are asymptomatic, meaning persons do not show any symptoms. This is worrisome, according to the regional chairman, David Armagan, who noted that persons can have the deadly virus without knowing. The chairman was speaking at a press conference on Tuesday and revealed that of the 13 Cubans who illegally entered Guyana 2 weeks ago via the backtrack route from Suriname, 5 tested positive for COVID-19. The bus driver who transported the foreign nationals also tested positive, along with a doctor and 2 nurses who treated a positive female patient at the New Amsterdam Hospital. It was further highlighted that the police in the region are allowing another batch of Cubans who are in quarantine to leave the facility to shop at supermarkets and liquor stores. As of August 25th for Region 6, there are 8 persons in institutional isolation, 15 in home quarantine based on contact tracing, and 60 pending results. The chairman also decried the almost 2 weeks that the results take to return, with just one institution conducting a test for the entire country.
I know the Minister of Health is also looking to bring in an additional 2 additional machines so that we can get one in Berbice here to do our own testing. Because the fact is, if you have to wait 10 days after being tested, by which time your condition can deteriorate too. Even as we have noticed in these cases that have tested positive in the region, is only 2 cases that really were hospitalized. The one case, we had a lady who died, that is in March, and then the other person who went for a surgery, and of course that person had to be hospitalized because of the surgery, and that person now is in Georgetown Hospital.
It was further highlighted that the region is seeking to have all COVID-19 health workers live in a house or facility separate from their families. The New Amsterdam Hospital is currently being assessed to include a COVID-19 ward. 2 ventilators are also being dispatched to the region.
We will have to set up, put the necessary facilities in place to make sure that we can deal in a setting, we can have a proper setting to deal with COVID-19 patients if there's a need for hospitalization.
The regional chairman says more cooperation and collaboration with the police force and business community is immediately needed to further prevent the spread of COVID-19. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patois.
The Georgetown Mayor and City Council is not pleased with the measures in place by central government to curb the spread of COVID-19. City Mayor Ubra Chinarain on Tuesday told the newsroom that the reduction in the curfew hours and the approval for more businesses to reopen without proper guidelines is reversing the gains made by the city in the past 6 months. Bibi Katoon has the details.
Region 4 on July 21st reported that there were no active COVID-19 cases, but just over a month later, the home of the capital city, Georgetown, has recorded over 200 new cases. During a telephone interview on Tuesday, Mayor of Georgetown, Ubra Chinarain, told the newsroom that the decision of the new government to move the curfew to 9 p.m. and to allow more businesses to operate in the city pose a major threat to the fight against COVID-19.
We have seen, as the Mayor City Council, the new gazetted order, which is a loose one, because you're giving the businesses more kind of open door policy to deal with the public. There should be some kind of restriction, moving the curfew from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. For the Mayor and City Council, we find it that is very, very loose. The curfew should remain, because if you visit the city about that time, like 9, the city is still active presently. And the city is still active 9:30 and all these things.
The curfew was moved to 9 p.m. on August 15th, when Region 4 had recorded 190 total COVID-19 cases. To date, the region has recorded 351 COVID-19 cases, which are attributed to widespread testing. But a walk through Georgetown will show that persons are not adhering to physical distancing guidelines, neither are they wearing a face mask as is required, especially in the market areas. The City Council is responsible for the markets and was the first to institute a $5,000 fine for persons not wearing masks. Acting Chief Constable Peter Livingstone on Tuesday told the newsroom that over 200 persons were fined since March.
We have over 200 that have been arrested and would have contributed to that or subscribed to that regulation.
And that's $5,000 they pay?
5,000, yes.
All right. And that 200 is from March to now?
Yes, correct. As we speak, we are now putting in place an exercise which will see more persons being charged. People will be charged, because I understand that the police is now moving to implement charge against persons through the court. So we'll be obtaining the necessary specimens of them, and with the regulation, and we'll also be going in that direction, because it's now a compulsion that as you're out in public, you must wear masks.
Livingstone noted that the constabulary does not have the adequate staff but works with those available to implement the COVID-19 guidelines. The Mayor and City Council has a COVID-19 task force which will be meeting on Thursday to discuss the adherence to guidelines in the city. Bibi Katoon, Newsroom.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, has made a commitment to address the conflicting reports of the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Region 7, according to the Regional Chairman, Gordon Bradford. The Regional Health Emergency Committee on Friday last released data which showed that as of August 21st, the region recorded a total of 226 cases. However, in the Ministry's daily update on Monday, only 200 cases were reported. Isanella Pato reports.
Regional Chairman for the Cayuga-Mazaruni region, Gordon Bradford, during a telephone interview with the newsroom on Tuesday, said that the inconsistency with the reports is not helping in the region's COVID-19 fight, and as such, he reached out to the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, to address the situation. The newsroom understands that there is a miscommunication at the National Public Health Reference Laboratory in Georgetown as it relates to the location of the cases. When a person is tested, their address is required, and as such, there is a mix-up at the lab with where the patients live and where they were tested. Bradford explained that in the meantime, the region will desist from updating its cases until the matter is resolved.
We have made contact with the Honorable Minister, and we alluded to the fact that the conflicting reports that are being circulated or posted is not helping our cause, because we are the people on the ground. And so when the information is posted out there, and then people start calling us we don't know how to answer them because the information most times is from what we will have at the regional level. And so we're working to have that corrected.
Mass testing is currently ongoing in the region, and there are over 200 results pending since last week. So far, 5 persons have died from COVID-19 in the region. Bradford further told the newsroom that it took over 2 weeks for them to receive the results for the last 3 persons who died.
But you can only follow what was supposed to do. What was supposed to do, but I know it's supposed to be 200 or something, and not 200. For instance, we would have seen the posted that we've had 3 additional deaths. But those results, when those persons went to the hospital, the swabs were taken, and it was sent to Georgetown, and we had to wait like two weeks going into 2 weeks before we actually got those results, and then we could have released the bodies to the family.
Bradford suggested that if the results are sent back at least within 48 hours, then they can better manage the health crisis. Medical technologists at the reference lab have started a second 12-hour shift to address the backlog. With limited human resources, more persons are also being trained to speed up testing. Meanwhile, so far, 2 doctors and 5 nurses were sent to assist the region's COVID-19 fight. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanala Patwo.
A motorcyclist who was caught on camera violently assaulting a police officer on August 22nd at King Street, Georgetown, appeared at the Georgetown Magistrates Court slapped with 8 charges. Police headquarters in a statement noted that Levi Tate of Durban Street, Georgetown, appeared before Magistrate Clive Nurse, where he pleaded not guilty to 6 of the charges and was granted a total of $50,000 bail. He was charged with the assault of a peace officer, for which he was granted $25,000 bail, and assault with intent to resist arrest, for which he was placed on $25,000 bail. Additionally, Tate pleaded guilty to driving motorcycle CJ 7532 without a license and was fined $25,000. He also admitted to driving an uninsured motorcycle, for which he was fined $30,000. Meanwhile, Tate also pleaded not guilty to failure to carry a front ID mark, failure to wear a safety helmet, obscured ID mark rear, and breach of a one-way. He was released on self-bail for these offences. The case was adjourned to October 26, 2020. More news ahead. Stay with us. Come back. You're watching the newsroom. Police are investigating the armed robbery committed on a Nimes West Bank Demerara resident on Monday night. Police headquarters revealed that the 2 bandits covered the victim's head with a jersey and tied his feet and hands to the back as they assaulted him and demanded money. According to the police report, the victim was identified as detector operator and worked at a mining back dam in the Upper Mazruni River. He returned to Nimes about 2 months ago with $4.4 million in cash, which he kept at home. It is alleged that at around 22 hours 30 Monday, the victim was lying on a chair in the living room watching television when he fell asleep at about 23 hours 50. And he woke up then and saw one of the suspects with a gun pointed at him. He was ordered to lie face down. The victim claimed that as he was about to turn his face down, the second suspect, whose face was covered with white cloth and was also armed with a black handgun, entered the living room and tied him up. The victim said that after constant demands and threats with the gun for the money, he became fearful for his life and pointed to the location where the money was kept. The suspects escaped in a waiting car. The government is continuing to look for ways to secure additional funding to fight COVID-19. This is according to Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony.
One, the government of Guyana has set aside $4.5 billion as our initial effort. And so we have some immediate funds that are available to us. We have also been talking to a lot of our bilateral partners. India, for example, gave us $1 million. We've been talking to the multilateral agencies, and we've been able to get assistance like with PPEs and some of the equipment that we need. And we have also been looking at some of the banks that we have. We have existing loans like with the IDB, and we have repurposed some of those loans to use a portion of the money for the COVID response. So in that case, for example, with one of our loans with the IDB, we're using $1 million to repurpose that for the COVID response. And we have also been in consultation with the IDB and negotiations with them to garner some additional funds. So once we complete those negotiations, we should have a substantive amount of money to respond to the epidemic.
A 63-year-old man of West Warrenville, Georgetown, is missing and feared dead after the boat he was in sank at Simang Creek in the Middle Mazaruni Monday night. Clement Morgan, along with the captain, 49-year-old Marvin Andrews, a miner of Cane Grove, Mahaica, East Coast, Demerara, and Sanika Jacobs, were heading towards the Simang Bag Dam after visiting the office of the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission at Isano. Police headquarters in a statement said the boat's engine stopped working and subsequently sank at about 20 hours 30 Monday while they were navigating through the falls. The Guyana Police Force stated that Andrews and Jacobs managed to swim to safety, but Morgan could not be found and remains missing. The area is being searched and ranks have been dispatched to the scene. That's it from me, Neil Marks. Just after the break, the financial weather and bridge reports, and Avinash Ramzan with sport. Take care.
Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We start things off with some cricket news. Ben Down struck consecutive sixes to seal a win that was set up by opener Evan Lewis, whose 89 off 60 balls gave St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots their first win in 4 games in CPL this season. Lewis struck 9 sixes as Patriots overhauled Barbados Tridents 151 for 7 in the first match at Queen's Park Oval on Tuesday morning. Lewis was later named man of the match.
Well, it was the best batting performance of the Hero CPL 2020. Congratulations, Evan Lewis. You must be relieved.
Yeah, of course. We needed this win. We went out there, back our skills. I got a good start for the team. Bad luck, I didn't carry it down to the end, but I'm still thankful for it and thankful for the victory.
Yeah, we were looking for that century, but you did start really nice and quickly at the top. Was that a plan?
Yeah, of course. We always look to start good at the top. Me and Lynn, obviously, we want to get the team off to a good start, so the rest of batsmen come in that can carry down to the end. And we get a good start today, and we get a victory.
You must have felt good with that partnership with Dinesh Ramdin.
Yeah, of course. Shoppy, a very experienced guy. He's the main batsman in the middle there. When he had a good partnership, we carried it as deep as possible, and don't come at the end and finish it at top.
Evan, I know for you personally, you'll be glad to get this knock under your belt, but for the team, how important were these 2 points?
Yeah, it's very important. We have had a shaky start. We lost our first 3 games. Hopefully that this victory can bring a momentum for us and carry on to the tournament.
You happy to be back at the Queen's Park Oval?
Yeah, of course. They always have a good wicket here. I always back myself to score runs here and came off today.
The Guyana Amazon Warriors skipper Chris Green has heaped praises on the 19-year-old left-arm spinner from Guyana, Ashmead Ned. Ned made his CPL debut earlier this season. He has picked up just 2 wickets so far, but his economy rate is under 4. Here's what Green had to say about Ned.
I've been blown away. As I've said after games and before games, I've watched him from afar. He was with us last year for a few games. I've been really impressed. As a young player like that to come in and bowl spin, particularly at that Jamaican side, and even yesterday in the match against St. Lucia, the way he held his nerve, was able to repeat and execute what I asked of him. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. He's exciting young talent for Guyana, exciting young talent for the West Indies, and I think it's watch this space with him. I think the world's his oyster, and he's got a very bright future ahead of him. Now bringing Ned in and performing the way he does is obviously very beneficial, and even causes more headaches for me, but it's in a great way. The coaching staff and the the team really back our players, and I think it's fantastic the way Ashmead's taken his opportunity with both hands, and it makes it very easy to fill that quota of 5 games if he continues to put performances like that on our board, and he's pushing his way to stay in our best 11 for the remainder of the tournament.
Test cricket news now. James Anderson getting to 600 test wickets was the lone bright spot in an otherwise dull last day of the 3rd and final test between England and Pakistan. Rain again affected the final day's play, and Pakistan resuming on 100 for 2, still 210 runs adrift of avoiding an innings defeat, closed on 187 for 4. Anderson dismissed first innings centurion Azhar Ali to become the first pace bowler to reach 600 test wickets, ending with 2 for 45. Final scores: England 583 for 8 cleared, Pakistan 273 and 187 for 4. England won the series 1-0. Football news now. Samuel Cox, captain of the Golden Jaguars, feels that should the available pool of players be selected, then Guyana can be a serious threat to CONCACAF opponents in the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. Akim Green reports.
Guyana will start the road to the FIFA World Cup in Qatar 2022, away to Trinidad and Tobago on October 8th, after which they will return home to roar against the Bahamas on Tuesday, October 13th. On November 13, Guyana will travel to St. Kitts and Nevis for the third game and then host Puerto Rico on November 17th. The group draw has enthused many local pundits and players over the likelihood of progress. To reach the next round, they have to top the group. For the best chance of making a significant statement in these qualifiers, Cox is confident if the best group is assembled, they can make inroads.
You look at the squad and players and pool of players we can choose from now. It's unbelievable, and like you've just said, some of the signings and deals that have been made over the last couple of months has been phenomenal and only putting Guyana on the map. We have access now to players that are playing in the English Football League, the English Championship, in the National League. We've got players in the MLS, USL, Keanu Marsh-Brown doing well at his club. If we have the access to these players and we're able to call these players up, then, I think most teams in the CONCACAF would fear us. Is that whoever's going to get selected, up to the gaffer, whoever he selects, we're going to give our utmost and do our best to progress through this group.
Though at this point in time, the foreign-based Golden Jaguars are the only ones with active football as compared to those in Guyana, it begs to be seen the approach of management and selection. In another section of the press, Golden Jaguars head coach Marcio Maximo has reiterated his position on the composition of his team, which he says must see a balance of local and overseas talent. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
And as the world continues to grapple with the coronavirus, sport events are not being spared, and the latest casualty is the Rugby America's North Sevens Championship. More in this report.
According to a correspondence from the Guyana Rugby Football Union, the tournament has been cancelled owing to the restrictions that countries currently face. The union said that with the continued uncertainty and a landscape which is highly likely to change in the coming months leading up to the Sevens in mid-November, the Rugby America's North Executive Committee has taken the decision to cancel the Sevens. The decision was relayed to member unions immediately so as to avoid unnecessary training for the tournament given the current situation with regards to travel restrictions, high levels of COVID-19, and the imposition of quarantine laws on returning residents in some member countries. President of the Guyana Rugby Football Union, Ryan Day, was not surprised by the move, noting that safety first is of paramount importance.
Well, the news is not a shock per se. I was previewed to the notion that it might be cancelled. I also relayed this to my team of executives, also to some of the players, well, most of the players. So we're not in shock. I mean, it's safety first, and that's one of the rules of rugby, is to be safe at all times. Way forward is we're just going to try to keep our bodies fit, our minds fit and ready for the 2021. Whenever they spring this tournament on us, we will be ready. And I'm sure that they will give us ample time and notice on when they are going to actually run off this tournament.
The tournament was scheduled for November in the Bahamas.
And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, newsroom.gy, our Facebook page, or Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.